Hello guys and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me Vulcan. Today I have for you game 1 out of 2 games between Herr and Chickendew in the European Steel Division League Code S. So today we're going to be seeing Carpe and on the Allied side Herr bringing out the 4th Armoured, and on the Axis side Chickendew is using the 17th SS. So interesting matchup, interesting map. Certainly one that I think will fall in favour of the 4th Armoured in the early game at least. But moving into sort of phase B and C, I think the Stug 4s will be quite good for dealing with Hellcats at range. It just really depends what position Herr is in at that point, because if he's close enough to engage the Stug 4s like right up in their face, then it probably won't matter too much. Because the Hellcats will then have the extra AP they need to get the job done, and due to their superior mobility, they can sort of bait the aim time of the Stug 4 and then like sort of back into cover whilst another Hellcat comes out from a different location and has a go. So that's something that I kind of expect Herr to try and play around, but we'll have to wait and see. Chickendew, however, he does have like Nebelwerfers, he does have very strong infantry, so holding this town in the bottom side shouldn't be too difficult. The Nebelwerfers can also be great for killing Hellcats, so if they are hiding behind a hangar or something, or just like a building, then you can put those rockets straight on top of the Hellcat, and if they hit, there's a chance they will die because they're open top, and also the flames that are left on the ground have a chance of killing them as well. So those are things that Chickendew might be able to do here to help himself out. Furthermore, there is things like Panzerschreck, Stosstroop that can ambush in multiple locations, and something we've seen like VulcanHDGaming do, for example, in other games. But let's see what's actually going down here. So Herr on the top side, he does have 2 units of rifles. He's got the WC-52 with the cavalry scouts up there. For the sort of middle area, I'm assuming these hangars, he's going to just send 1 unit of rifles. And then on the bottom side, he's going to be going for 4 rifles with an M8 cavalry, a command, and also the M4A1 OP. On the very bottom side, it's going to be 2 more units of rifles. You've got the rifle leader following up, and then also another cavalry scouts. So an interesting setup for Herr. No significant units at the start, like Hellcats or even Abrams for that matter. It looks like he's going to try and avoid the airfield early on and just sort of solidify the areas that Chickendew might be able to take advantage of. So we'll have to wait and see if that works out in his favour. The off-map could certainly be quite decisive if it hits the mark. Chickendew, however, is going to be focusing on the town, of course. He does have 2 units of Stosstroop, got 2 units of Panzergrenadiers. He's also got the command following up with the Panzerschrecks and a Nebelwerfer, I would assume that is. On the bottom side, that's going to be a Panzerschreck and a Stosstroop. Further up, we've got some recon. I think that's some Panzergrenadiers and also the command there. And on the very top side, it's going to be a Pack 40 with the command infantry and the Stosstroop. So that Pack 40 looking to sort of lock down the airfield in the early game and then allow Chickendew to sort of focus into the town and try and take as much ground as he can down here early on in the game. So that's kind of what we're looking at now. Let's see where these units are exactly going. So yeah, a large concentration heading to this area for Herr and also on the bottom side. Only a small amount heading to the top, this rifle unit even going straight to the middle of the airfield to just hold in one of these bushes and keep themselves hidden. Over on the side of Chickendew, he's kind of spread a bit more evenly across this town, does have some Stosstroop heading down to the very bottom, which could be quite interesting. It really depends on where the units go from here, but if they start moving up, then a salient will form on the bottom side, which will give Chickendew a little bit of territory advantage early on. So these troops now spreading out, getting some Panzergrenadiers into these sort of middle areas will be really nice. But this M4A1 OP is going to be really annoying to deal with because it does still have a 30 cal and a 50 cal. So regardless of the fact it has off-map, it's still going to be pretty strong otherwise. But that is a pretty nice Nebelwerfer strike. Does manage to pin down almost all of the infantry. This rifle squad just about staying unpinned. armoured leader here, they do take a rocket to the face and takes them down to 1 man. Now off map going to be coming down in the opposite direction from Herr onto Chickendew's forces. But this defense from Chickendew, there's no real concentration to it, and I feel like that's something that could let Chickendew down here. Whereas sort of Herr forces are like in 2 sets, it seems as though Chickendew's units are all very spread out. And I guess that's something you can't really avoid since your infantry generally costs more. But with, for example, these Panzergrenadiers and Panzerstreck about to get hit by this off-map, there's a very good chance that this M8 cavalry can just zoom up the road and just surrender whatever is there. And you'll see that the front line, you know, is sort of swinging slightly, and that's something that Herr might identify and take advantage of. But just in general, dealing a lot of damage to the numbers of these Panzergrenadier squads is extremely important. So now it looks like Chickendew is going to be forced to bring in the SPW-223. He doesn't want surrenders to happen, obviously. He also doesn't want any command to be pinned down by potential off-map. So that's something that he's going to be focusing on, getting in like armoured off-map so that it doesn't suffer so much. But here comes another off-map strike. Herr just trying to force these Panzergrenadiers back, and if they don't move back then they will just get hit by the off-map and suffer quite a lot of damage. Meanwhile, he can just continue to push forwards with the rifles and take a little bit more ground, which has pushed Herr into a +1 right now. These Stosstroop have managed to get up into the 100-meter range, but against, what's that, 22 rifles, obviously they're doing quite a lot of damage to the rifles here. I'm not sure they're actually going to win because of the 2v1 situation they're in. And the rifles did kill one of the Stosstroop, but yeah, this Stosstroop will also go down as it loses more and more men. The M8 cavalry also coming up to help. There's also the Bantam there. The Panzergrenadiers are going to get pinned by the off-map. This Panzerstreck might also get pinned by the off-map. If it doesn't, then this M8 cavalry and Bantam could be in trouble. But for now, killing that Stosstroop attack is very, very important for Herr and gives him a lot of room to work with on this bottom side. Rifles now, they're going to try and hit these Stosstroop a little as they move forwards. Into the 100-meter range with the rifles is not ideal for Herr, but doesn't particularly matter. I think the main thing here is Chickendew was trying to get the Panzerfaust onto the M4A1, but couldn't, as Herr decided to micro that back. But it's interesting that Herr has focused on the town engagement at the start, rather than utilizing Hellcats and the Abrams. It's very, very different to what we're used to seeing from the 4th Armoured, and shows just how versatile they can be in most situations. More Stosstroop are on their way though, and as you can see, Chickendew is trying to use the smoke here to get a 2v1 situation with these rifle squads so that he can just rip those to shreds, and does manage to once there, but have to wait and see if he can do it again, because there obviously is 2 more. They're supported by the M4A1. The Stosstroop are unlikely to get close enough with their Panzerfaust unless Herr really makes a mistake. So, yeah. Chickendew's in a bit of a tough spot, but this Panzerstreck could make the difference here. It could maybe find a shot onto the M4A1 OP. However, it has been spotted by the rifles, and therefore the M4A1 immediately reversed. And yeah, good identification there by Herr, just keeping aggressive with these rifles. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Bantam has spotted the Stosstroop. Not really much Chickendew can do about that. He doesn't have any smoke grenades left, so that Stosstroop is just straight up dead. The Panzerstreck obviously being forced back is not great, and that allows the M4A1 OP to continue forwards once again. The 2-star Stug is now on the way. I was just thinking that it would be a good idea to bring this into the town to try and deal with some of this armour like the M8 Cavalry and the M4A1 OP, so that the rifles can't really move forwards as aggressively, because the rifles don't have any AT, so the Stug would also deal with them as well. And that's something that I was kind of looking for. But now it's here, but generally will Herr have the positioning to make it work. The other thing that's happened is Herr, due to being able to break through with the M4A1 OP due to the Panzerstreck going down, he's managed to get an off-map strike onto where the Nebelwerfer was, and this could be very deadly for that Nebelwerfer, especially considering that Opel Blitz is right next to it. So if an off-map strike hits the Opel Blitz and blows it up, that Nebelwerfer is 100% dead. Meanwhile though, Bantam is supporting into the town, and these 50 cals are really, really strong, especially when they're 2-star veterancy. Like 2-star 50 cals are just absolutely horrific to play against, but we do now see the M4 Abrams on the way, off-map strike. I think the first shot even hit the Opel Blitz and blew it up. The off-map's also forcing back the Stug, which is going to basically take away that support for the time being, and at such a decisive moment in the game, that is just so damn important. Because that Stug 3 not getting here sooner than later is going to allow some of these rifles to try and take up positions in these buildings, and once they do, pushing back into that is going to be extremely difficult. The only way that Chickendew can really do it from there is bring in like a Pak 40 to sort of watch the town against armor, bring in some IGs to sort of help pin down infantry that may be entrenched in buildings, and then have his own infantry run towards the buildings again. But that all takes time and a lot of points, and at the moment Chickendew isn't really in a good economic situation to do that. So either way, Stoss Troop going to be dropping down the smoke, covering the Stug 3 as it is almost pinned. M8 Cavalry did make a push, Bantam's also making one now. Rifles are pushing up onto the Panzergrenadiers at close range. The rifles actually have a significant advantage. They can use both their M1 Garands and the Thompson, which gives them 8 HE versus the Panzergrens 5. On the airfield, IG-18 does make a little bit of ground for Chickendew, but it's nothing significant as the +1 stays in favour of Herr. So just a very unorthodox strategy here from Herr. Has managed to just completely rip through this town. I don't think anyone, when they think about the 4th Armoured, really thinks, oh, you know, they're going to push through the town and use their rifles and off-map. You generally expect them to use Abrams and also the Hellcats, right? But in this case, I think it's perfectly identified by Herr to make good use of these M4A1OPs as well as the rifles to dislodge a lot of the infantry that generally would be a problem. Like these Stoss Troop, they are fantastic at close range, but they do suffer like against numbers, and that's where the rifles come in handy. So that's one reason why Chickendew has really suffered in this case. The other thing is that Panzergrenadiers in Phase A for the 17th SS do not have Panzerfaust themselves, so they can definitely be easily taken advantage of by vehicles, and that sort of combination has allowed the 4th Armoured to really exploit the 17th. The Abrams is coming up here looking for the engagement with the Stug 3, basically because the B-26B Marauder has come in and is now strafing the Stug 3. Pak 38 is on return fire, but I'm not entirely sure if that's going to make too much of a difference. It will likely just miss. Yeah, and then it will get killed by the 50 cals at that range. Stug 3 is now engaging at max range, but under fire by both the M8 Cavalry and M4 Abrams is not great. Stoss Troop are going to open up onto the rifles and probably kill them off in the open quite quickly, actually. Crack will destroy onto the M8 Cavalry is nice as well. Stoss Troop, they're pinned down. If they don't die, they could find a Panzerfaust shot, but nope, they're gone. Poor Stoss Troop. And now the Stugs are in big trouble. The M4A1OP can help just pin down the Pak 38 and kill that off. Meanwhile, the Abrams can just charge after the Stug 3 and take care of that. Focke-Wulf 190 moving into Phase B has been brought in to shoot down the B-26B. He's had enough of that. But I don't think that's going to save this Stug 3 from getting out of there. That's 11 AP on a 2-star Abrams, or a 2-star M4 even. And against 8 armor, will penetrate eventually. If not, Stug 3 will just get surrendered, especially with the Bantam just zooming towards it right now. Also with the flak filling under fire from the M4A1OP, that's not going to be able to, well, that's going to stop the flak filling from pinning the Bantam, and therefore it looks like both of these units will just end up surrendered. This is just really, really bad for Herr right now, or for Chickendew, sorry. Because if Herr manages to cut off the bottom side spawn, he's going to be forced to use the top side spawn, and due to these tree lines it makes it very difficult to push back. But there goes the Stug, there goes the flag filling. Pack 38 has been brought in. Not sure it's really going to be able to do too much. The 50 cals are going to be focusing on it. It's only, well, it's got no veterancy. And that makes all the difference at the end of the day. It does manage to get the internal fragments, which removes the machine gun capability of the M4A1. The Pack 43, or 38, sorry, is just pinned now, and that's just waiting to die. Marder 3 is on the way. It may be able to engage Abrams, and if it's lucky, get like a one-shot kill. That will probably require some command to come in with it if he wants to try and find a one-shot kill. But either way, could get lucky here, clean up these tanks, and that would be a good way to reclaim a lot of ground down here. But as I mentioned, with the land spawn being cut off, it makes things extremely awkward on this map to sort of push back on this bottom side. And now with like the M4-105 arriving in on the airfield, that's going to help clean up the IG-18, might also help out the clean up the pack. Hellcats coming in will be able to zoom over here very, very quickly and reinforce, even though like this is well away from the reinforcement lines. And yeah, I think Herr quite simply sealed the deal with that push. His off-map use was very, very nice. It wasn't necessarily hitting a lot of things, but it was hitting them in the right areas, and it allowed his infantry to continuously make ground. And that's of course what you need to do in a conquest game. So now a +3, 70% territory lead. The command has been brought in for the Marder 3, so correctly identified there by Chickendew. Going to be looking for the one-shot kills onto these tanks. If he can make it work, that would be fantastic for him. Oh, the bounce there is not ideal. Obviously the 9 and 10 armor still reasonably significant. And that means that the Marder's on about a 50% penetration. I think it's probably just a bit less than that even. Oh no, here comes the P-38 Lightning for the bombing strike onto the Marder 3. Bombers, they are really good against Marders because the Marders are open top. And even if it doesn't kill it, it is going to force it back. Which isn't such a big deal since the Marder 3 is here. A second Marder 3 is here to stop that Marder 3 from being rushed down. But at the same time, if that bomber is allowed to just continue to bomb these Marder 3s, then Chickendew doesn't really have a chance of coming back, but is trying his hardest at the moment. 4 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. Chickendew has a lot of work to do, and these Marders need to start getting a lot of kills. Otherwise things just get harder and harder at this point. Pack 40 over here. It's currently on return fire. It's unfortunate that this M4A1 OP is just out of line of sight. If that manages to drop off map here, I'm not sure if it has any charges left, but if it does, that could be devastating for Chickendew. Because this Pack 40 has the potential to like kill both of these tanks and really take off the pressure on the top side, which will relieve a lot of territory. M4-105 getting hit by the Pack 40. Marder 3, that's going to be engaging some infantry on the bottom side. Either way, crew wounded onto the M4-105. Can see that the M4A1 is going to get sniped. Nice job by the Pack 40. M4 is going to be falling back. 10 seconds until the off-map comes down, but the M4 does go down. So a couple of significant kills. These rifles, they're really just slowing down Chickendew's approach right now. And here comes another P-38 Lightning for the bombing strike onto the Marder 3. With now Hellcats in play, this is very scary. Because as long as these Marder 3s are pinned, the Hellcat can just take full advantage of that. And you can see how quickly they can zoom up. It will stop soon enough, take a shot at the Marder 3 and hope for the kill. P-38 doesn't even go down to the Focke-Wulf 190 because Herr has reinforced himself with the CGMC. Here we go, Hellcat's taking shots. Manages to get 2 shots off, but doesn't hit either of them. Now the Bantam coming into play, that's going to be trying to run down and surrender the Pioneers and Panzergrenadiers. The Hellcat gets the shot onto the Marder 3, and now there is only one remaining. If Herr decides to bring in another bomber, this could just be all over for Chickendew. I mean, at this point, it's already more or less over, since Herr is approaching the 2,000 point mark. But these Marder 3s were a chance for a comeback, and unfortunately it just hasn't really worked out. If it had got maybe a one-shot onto some of these tanks, then that would have been nice, but unfortunately not today. Can see that half track is going to go down there. Pack 40 was brought in to kill the Hellcat, but not going to hit the mark. Can see that the Stoss troop on the top side, they're trying to get into the face of these cavalry scouts. I'm not sure that's going to work out too well. At the end of the day, cavalry scouts do have 10 HE, which is enough to definitely do a lot of damage to Stoss troop at 100 meter range. And the worst thing here is the cavalry scouts are in heavy cover and the Stoss troop are not, so Stoss troop just lose out in that case. Now, the Hellcat does manage to get back. Abrams is still alive. Herr pretty happy to sit on this +4. Another P-38 Lightning coming in. That's going to be trying to bomb the Pack 40. And will be successful in doing so. And doesn't quite find the kill onto it. But leaves it on 1 health. The Stoss troop should be able to kill the WC-52. Herr was trying to run down the Pack 40 with that. But reveals the location of more infantry. But yeah, so seriously fantastic job here by Herr to use an unorthodox strategy to probably catch Chickendew unaware. He probably expected to see Abrams early on. He probably expected to see a Hellcat at least on the top side. But a strong infantry presence into the town was not a strategy that I really saw coming. Maybe I'm just a bit out of touch, but I thought it was interesting to watch nonetheless, and now the Hellcats can come in and do their job, and like I mentioned, when you get a lot of Hellcats onto the field into the late game, especially when they can play around these tree lines, it just makes things very awkward for the self-propelled guns of the 17th SS to get the job done. And that's exactly what we've seen. P-38 Lightning use has been really, really nice as well to help bomb these Marder 3s and prevent their effectiveness. We can see that the Stoss troop did manage to move forwards here and kill off the cavalry scouts, but the Pack 41, or Pack 40, sorry, did go down. Now P-38 strafing the Marder 3. But yeah, at this point, nothing too much more to say. It's been a done deal for a while. I think probably since the first Marder went down, the Marder 3. Because having 2 Marder 3s on the field was a smart choice of unit to try and come back against what he was up against. But just like as I said, they didn't really pay off, and Herr had the answer in the P-38s to stop them from being effective. And at the end of the day, Herr wins the game after 19 minutes and 13 seconds. Herr with the 1,205 kills to 740 losses. In terms of kills, you can see that the rifles actually did really, really well against Stoss troop, which is something you wouldn't really say would happen very often, but due to them outnumbering the Stoss troop so much, it does definitely lead to the favour of those rifles. Numbers do beat Stoss troop. That's just something to remember. M4A1OPs, the off-map was absolutely superb. The M4 ended up taking out 2 Pack 38s and the Stug 3. It got credited for the Stug 3 kill, though I assume that got surrendered. In terms of losses, well, Stoss troop, I mean, they did get a few kills here and there. Pack 40 on the top side killing the M4A1OP and the M4105 was important, but you can see just how little kills Chickendew got in the early game. He found it very difficult to trade units effectively, and you can see that like the B-26B came in to kill the, or not kill, but pin down the Stug 3, and that was the first time the Focke-Wulf got a kill, and that's like the start of Phase B. So this is like Phase B here. So this is these are the only kills that Chickendew got in Phase A, more or less, which is a huge disparity to the amount of kills that Herr got in Phase A. It's pretty incredible, honestly. And yeah, fantastic strategy from Herr. I mentioned that where he was after Phase A would make a big difference, and he certainly managed to just rip through that town early enough that the Hellcats were such an issue for the reinforcements that were coming in. So an interesting game. This is of course game 1, however, of 2 games in the European Steel Division League. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the European Steel Division League games. I have started to cover them since I'm limited on the tournament footage at the moment, or replays. There isn't any particular ones that I'm interested in casting, so I thought I'd cast the league, and hopefully you guys have been enjoying them. But this was actually a really interesting game. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys did too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.